Welcome to our few moments together on the Parsha. This Shabbos we have the privilege of reading Parshas Chukas. In the middle of the Parsha, Moshe is told to speak to the rock to bring out water, despite the fact that the first time he was told to hit the rock, this time he was told to speak to the rock. When he hits the rock, the pasuk says, "Vayorem Moshe es yodo," and Moshe lifted up his hand, vayach es hasela, and he hit the rock. The Divrei Shol, Reb Yosef Shol Nathanson Zal, asks the question, why did the Torah have to tell us that Moshe, vayorem Moshe es yodo, that Moshe lifted up his hand? It could have just said that Hashem told Moshe to speak to the rock, and Moshe hit the rock, telling us that he lifted his hand to hit the rock. What possible value for us reading the Torah and learning and studying it, what value was the Torah giving us, and why did it have to say that he lifted his hand? That's the question that Yosef Shol Nathanson Zal, the Divrei Shol, asks. And he quotes a statement that he heard from Reb Menachem Mendel Pistiker Zal, who he calls a great tzaddik in Chocham. And Reb Pistiker asked the following. You know, you go back to the Akedah. It says by the Akedas Yitzchak, Vayishlach Avram es Yado Vayikach es Hama'acheles. And Avram sent his hand to take the knife. Why do you have to say Vayishlach es Yado, that he sent his hand? So the Menachem Mendel explains, Hashem told Avraham, Ha'aleyu sham la'ola, bring him up as a korban. As Rashi says, you brought him up, now bring him down. There was never any intention that Hashem wanted Avraham to literally slaughter Yitzchak of the Akedah. The Akedah, Yitzchak, means the binding of Yitzchak. There was no intention of actually slaughtering him. And so when Avraham took the knife, which he thought he was supposed to use on Yitzchak, it says, Vayishlach es yodo vayikach es hama'acheles. He had to actually send his hand and force it to take the knife. And Hashem said to him, Al tishlach yodcha el hanar. Don't send your hand against the child. I had no intention of your doing anything bad. So we see that because Avram was not commanded to hurt Yitzchak in any way, in order for Avram to actually do the deed of picking up the knife, he had to forcefully will his hand and vayishlach es yodo vayikach es hama'acheles. It was going against the ratzon of Hashem, against the will of Hashem. He was going against what Hashem wanted him to do, and so he had to forcefully vayishlach es yodo. He had to send his hand. By the same token, Moshe was going against what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted him to just speak to the rock. And in order for Moshe to hit the rock, he had to vayorem, b'koach. He had to lift his hand. He needed to force himself almost to go against the will of Hashem. So the idea here is that really not only our souls but our bodies wish to perform the mitzvahs. When we find ourselves on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, even though there are many people who all year long don't attend shul, but we find that they will themselves to go to shul, it's almost as if their feet carry them on their own, because that's really what they want to do, because the soul and the body are working together in order to fulfill the commandments. We have 248 limbs and 365 sinews in order to fulfill all 613 commandments. And consequently, our bodies want to do certain mitzvahs, and it's almost as if we run to do them. Our hands reach to our pocket to give tzedakah as soon as we see a needy person. Almost naturally, our hand wants to give the tzedakah. Our eyes want to read the words of the Torah. We want to pray, and so our lips move willy-nilly because we want them to, because it wants to on its own. But when it comes to doing an Aveira, we have to almost force ourselves. You know the famous story about a person who said, I went away from the Torah and I was able to do all the Averis I wanted. I just couldn't bring myself to eat on Yom Kippur. He couldn't do it. And so he came back because he had to force himself to go against this rule. No matter how far away we go, it's only that we forced ourselves to go away, but our heart desires and wants to be close. And that's why when we study Torah, when we daven, when we give tzedakah, there's such a good feeling because we're doing what we really want. And so the Divrei Shol tells us the pasuk had to say, Vayorem Moshe Yodo. He had to forcefully lift his hand. And if we ever feel that we're forcing ourselves to do something that we know isn't right, maybe that's a signal that we shouldn't do it. And when we feel the desire to go and do the right thing, go for it. We really want to do it because our inner desire of the limbs and the body and the soul are working in tandem to fulfill the will of Hashem. What a great idea, just in this terrible event of Moshe going against Hashem, to teach us the power that our inner desire wants to fulfill. And when we don't, it's not a good thing. Let's use this parsha to teach us how precious our desire to fulfill commandments is and to go and fulfill them. And with that way, we will all come much closer to our soul's desire and to Hashem himself. Have a wonderful Shabbos.